Reed and Bob Rant. Coming to you from not such a quite. Oh, God, I'm trying to get this off. There we go. Coming to you from not such a wonderful day in Melbourne today, weather-wise. So we'll give you a bit of a look out across our bay, as we always do, to start the program. Episode, program, podcast, whatever you want to call it. And there is our bay. It's a bit grey, bit wet, bit windy, not cold. It was actually quite warm this morning, but it's certainly cooled down a bit. It started raining pretty badly there a while. A much more normal Melbourne day. We've been very spoilt the last week. We've had some wonderful days. Yesterday it was so hot, 30 degrees apparently. So it felt more up here, at least 35. The good part about a day like today, it's much more bearable up here. As I've said to a couple of you, upstairs here in this office, there's just no aircon. Well, there is. It doesn't work. Well, it works, but it doesn't work. You turn it on, it makes all the noises, but we never get any cool air in here. So anyway, the price you get from living in an old place. So me and the dog, talking of the dog, there's my co-star, JJ. Come and say hello, JJ. There he is. He always says hello, don't you, mate? Hey, he loves it. No, he doesn't. He'd much prefer to be doing something else. But when I say, go on your couch, go on your couch. No, he wants to keep getting a hug. Oh, God, I love him to death. I saw a thing on X the other day. A person who told, I don't understand how people could be this cruel. My last dog was a Labrador, and he lived till nearly 15. And the best years I had with him were in his last years, his last couple of years. He was getting older, but we just knew each other's patterns so much. We knew each other. He knew exactly when I was going to bed, getting up, just all my little yeah, on the couch, good boy, my little idiosyncrasies. Those of you who have owned a dog before, and especially an older one, would know exactly what I'm talking about. And they really become a part of your life, your everyday life, to much to the point like this one does now. When you go to the shower, go to the toilet, they just know exactly what you're going to do. You know exactly when they want to go outside for a thing. It just becomes a part of your routine. And you have this sort of sixth sense. You understand what the other one needs all the time. And it's the most magnificent thing. It really is. Once you get that relationship with your pet. And there was this woman in the United States. She had a 13-year-old Labrador, so that struck close to home. And she just dumped it out in the road. They got it, thankfully, on some security camera. Well, she just pulled up on the side of the road, got the dog out, took its collar off, jumped in the car and just drove off. And this poor 13-year-old Labrador was just looking at it strange. Where's my master going? Just absolutely dumb. For that dog, that would have been devastating. Their whole life revolves around you as their owner. I just don't understand people who do this. There was another one today of a guy who dumped a mum and their pups just off near a busy road near an animal shelter. Now, it didn't take him in there, so I can't handle all these pets, which is what they're there for. Now, he just dumped them there near a busy road, and they chased his car down for a bit. Thankfully, the staff in the animal shelter were aware of it, and they rescued the dogs. But this bastard just dumped them. I mean, it's horrible to dump them as pups. I actually think neither one is acceptable. Let's put it that way. I think it's more unacceptable to dump them when they're an older dog that you've had the whole life, because you've established those bonds. At least with pups, they can establish a bond with someone else. But dogs actually really feel, when they lose an owner or an owner dumps them, they really feel it. So if you've got a dog, they're for life, is what I'm telling you. So this one here will be for life, that's for sure. He's a classic. He keeps me safe at night. So tell you, I think he keeps a few of the neighbours safe, though they don't appreciate it so much. But anyway, time, just a little in life insight. There you go. Time for the Bible read. Hold on. Yeah, I'll put that in. Just making sure I put the power on the laptop. Preparations for death. Know what this is all about as we're leading up to Easter. Mark 14, 1-9. As the plot against Jesus thickens, an outstanding act of love towards Jesus is recorded. which Jesus himself said should always be remembered. It was now 2 days before the festival of Passover and unleavened bread. The chief priests and the teachers of the law were looking for a way to arrest Jesus secretly and put him to death. We must not do it during the festival, they said, or the people might riot. Jesus was in Bethany at the house of Simon, a man who had suffered from a dreaded skin disease. While Jesus was eating, a woman came in with an alabaster jar full of very expensive perfume made of pure nard. She broke the jar and poured the perfume on Jesus' head. Some of the people there became angry and said to one another, "What was the use of wasting the perfume? It could have been sold for more than 300 silver coins and the money given to the poor." And they criticized her harshly. But Jesus said, "Leave her alone. Why are you bothering her? She has done a fine and beautiful thing for me. You will always have poor people with you, and any time you want to, you can help them, but you will not always have me. She did what she could. She poured perfume on my body to prepare it ahead of the time for burial. Now I assure you that wherever the gospel is preached all over the world, what she has done will be told in memory of her." That was on, I don't know whether any of you have watched the series, but The Chosen, fantastic series. Its next lot's coming back. It'll be pretty confronting, I think. It's going to cover the actual crucifixion of Jesus. I'm not too sure whether it's going to cover his resurrection. So The Passion of the Christ, for example, had a massive impact on me back when it first came out, Mel Gibson's film. That film really, I was a Catholic up until then, but I really didn't understand the complexity of what a crucifixion involved, and especially the part where he gets flogged with the whips and stuff. I still struggle to watch it to this day. I put myself through it every Easter, so I'll be watching it again soon. But it's to me, it's confronting to watch, and how any person could go through that. And if you think about it, he went through that for all of us and our sins. Everyone likes to put, which I think is just total naivety, total ignorance about why Christ died. He didn't die because the Jews killed him. He didn't die because the Romans killed him. Jesus had to die for all our sins. He had to take all those sins on his shoulders. And when you think about that, that's an enormous amount of pain and suffering and all that sort of thing, which is what he put himself through. It's just something, and you hear it in the Gospels, the way he's praying to his Father to spare him this burden, but he knew what he was going to go through. So he could have at any moment not gone through that if he chose to, being the Son of God. But he willingly went through it for you, for me. It wasn't anyone's fault. It's something he had to do. And if he didn't do it, then he doesn't take the burden of all our sins on his shoulders, and then that stops us from going to heaven. I mean, that one act is the most, can't think of the word. It's the most, I was going to say compassionate, but it's not that. It's the most amazing act of sacrifice, of willingly taking on pain to avert that for somebody else. There is a word for it. I can't think of it. Hate that. Ever recorded in human history. And if you haven't watched The Passion of the Christ, Mel Gibson's film, you should. Very tough to watch. Really tough to watch. But if you haven't watched, you should watch it. That should consolidate your faith in Christ and hopefully allow you to explore whether you're a Protestant, a Catholic, whatever. Preferably be a Catholic. It's much better. And you can consolidate your faith in him, and it gives you much clearer clarity on what life's all about. So, and maybe there'll be a little bit less angst, which is why I have my Bob rant and my Bible read and the same thing. I get my little biblical faith and I get my rant off my chest, and I'm ready for a better day. Talking of things getting off your chest, just watch the Parliament question time. My God. If you ever want to start having sinful thoughts, watch our politicians in their domain. It's just, the whole thing's just a bit of a farce, you know. Today, Albo's patting him, beating his own chest about this meeting with Ursula von dumb bitch from Europe. This is a person, she's supposed to be president of the European Union, but it's a role unlike the USA presidency It's not a role where the populace get the voter in. No one votes her in over there. They vote in their MPs and the parliament goes there, and then the parliament decides who their president's going to be, and then she's just got to get the majority within a parliament. And sadly, most of the European countries, though it is changing, have been socialist countries, so they vote in a globalist little puppet, and that's how she got the job. And they get it for whatever it is, 5-6 years, so she'll be in there till the next term. And they have a vote, and hopefully by then they've got rid of all their socialist governments, and they have a majority of conservatives. The conservative governments are rising right across Europe, in Germany, in France, in England, in Italy. You've already got Viktor Orban in Hungary. You've got the conservatives in Poland. So I think they're on their last legs, the socialists in Europe, and that's a bloody good thing. That's a very good thing if that happens. So you still got that socialist communist dickhead in Spain. So, there's still always will be issues. The one thing that will never, ever leave you for you younger ones, you're always going to have your politics. And you're always going to have people that you think are great that let you down. So you got to be really careful if you're a young one out there. Don't buy into the political bullshit too much. Don't put people up on a pedestal they don't belong. And for example, I love Trump, but I still have skepticism of Trump. I will have skepticism of every single politician that puts their name out there, because it's healthy to have it. Pauline Hanson, I'm right on her bandwagon at the moment. But if she lets me down, I'll jump off as quick as you can imagine. You never put your full faith in these bastards at all, because too often in my life, and I was guilty of this when I was younger, you can put all that faith in there, say they're going to be the savior, wait till the end of their political career, and then you can start judging them. And then you can start saying who are the great politicians of our history, of our time. In my mind, the greatest politician we've ever had was Robert Menzies. So there could be other arguments, I get that, but in terms of longevity and the way he impacted our culture and the standard of living he gave Australians, and just from the World War II, the end of World War II, right through to the 70s, Australia was a magnificent place. So you got to give him some credit. Australia was still a great place. We had a bit of a hump with Whitlam in the 70s, but then through the 70s, 80s, 90s, even the early parts of the 2000s, right up until Howard got chopped, it was great. But ever since then, it's been chaos. 2 decades of just nonsense. And for me as a boomer, and I know us boomers get criticism, I find it devastating that we had those great years, and now we've had 2 decades of silliness, because we've seen what could happen with reasonable governance. I wouldn't even say it was outstanding governance, but reasonable. We'll always have our issues with our government of the day, our politicians, our prime minister. But I think through my adult life up until 2007, I can say whether it was a Labor leader, state or federally, or a Liberal leader, state or federally, we'd have our votes, we'd have our differences, but then we'd get on and we'd know the place would be managed okay. Now, some decisions they make are lifelong impacts, others they don't. But, some of the polarising ideological insanity started with Kevin Rudd, and we've never recovered ever since. We got Abbott there for a bit, but what we all didn't know is that Abbott had the moderate lunatics in his ranks, and they ruined whatever chance he had of being a good prime minister. And then you had the Turnbull years, the Morrison years, and, Dutton just screwed it up. So, we've had some of the worst prime ministers in Rudd, Gillard, Rudd again. Then we had Abbott for a little bit. He never really got the chance. I think he would have been an outstanding prime minister, but we'll never know. Then we got frickin' Turnbull. Then we had Morrison, who was just a sellout. And then we've had Albo. I mean, you couldn't wish an era of poor prime ministers, poor governance, just absolute idiots. We got rid of the Rudd government with Abbott, but pretty much the Rudd government came back under Albo, except there was no Rudd or Gillard. But the same ministers are there. Burke was there then. Miles was there then. Albo was all with them back then. The same idiots are still, rife right amongst that ALP thing. They ruined the country under Rudd and Gillard, and then we've given them another chance under Albo to do the same thing. So us voters collectively aren't that smart. So, but really, on the defence of the voters, we haven't been given a lot of choice either. And that's why my last federal election I voted for no one, because I just couldn't see anybody that shared my values. That's different now. All right. One Nation is well and truly saying to me, vote for me, Bob. They have the Aussie issues, and this is what I'm saying. They're saying, they're calling to my values that they're sharing. And the moment they stop calling them like the Liberal Party, what I've learnt, jump off the ship. So it's all become big crazy. That was good today. Matt Canavan has come out and said he's been forced into it. He's open to a preference deal with One Nation. We need One Nation, and if we're going to get rid of ALP, sooner rather than later, all right? There's two ways, and if it doesn't work, we're in a lot of trouble, all right? We need the rise of One Nation to get rid of the ALP, and if the LNP did this, if they worked with the One Nation members, as in the MPs, to get some sort of alliance, whatever you want to call it, a coalition alliance, a partnership, whatever it is, just basically working together in a united fashion to get rid of the ALP, I've no doubt that would be successful. So far, the approach from the Liberals is to attack Pauline Nation and Pauline Hanson and One Nation, which I think will backfire spectacularly. But the problem with that is I don't think One Nation have the organisation behind them yet to achieve government. So the more they bitch amongst each other, the more chance are we going to get another term of ALP government. I do think over the journey, and this will be the longer road, that One Nation will rise, or a party. Even if One Nation can't pull it off, I think they can. If they can't pull this off, another Conservative party will come through. Hopefully we get another Menzies. That's what we ultimately need. If you read through Menzies' history, he united all the centre-right parties to form the Liberal Party. If we could get another leader like that can unite all the tribes, if you like, on the centre-right, you would romp in government. You would romp it in, both state and federally. But because we're spending all our time bitching, and that again started today for me, and look, I'm probably a bit guilty of this. There are certain people in politics that I'm pausing because I've been burnt too often. And on the right, it feels like at the moment you're in this battle. You've got those on the left, the crazy ones on your left. Then you've got those woke, for whatever one term, I get criticised for this, the woke right on the right. And then you're sort of stuck in the middle. You're caught between them. So you've got your Labor-light moderates, who I say they're in a centre-right party, but really they're not. And that's the moderates in the Liberal Party. And then you've got these woke right, far right. Let's call them what they are, far right nutters. And then you've also got the ones like, for example, John Ruddock. He put forward a motion, which I would normally support, say great, about removing, in rough terms, the multicultural legislation in New South Wales and replacing it with something else. I'd normally 100% be jumping on board. I think that's a noble thing, but I don't trust John Ruddock. John Ruddock, this is the same man. He gets on there, he pulls on these stunts, and this is a dog whistle to all the NSN types. He knows he can't win that vote. He knows it'll get voted down, and then what he'll do is he'll stand up in Parliament and he'll start attacking all those who vote against it. There is his dog whistle to hey, come and get behind me, vote me. And he's not legitimately the NSN type. I've known John, and I've actually talked to John for years. Communicated with him via Twitter, now X. Done it for years. We shared probably, I think it was a 90-minute phone call before, just as he went into the Liberal Democrats. And he was trying to convince me to go with him. Because before that, I'd been saying, John, you got to get out of the Liberal Party. It's not you're never going to change it. Which I still think I'm being proven right. So to his credit, he did. But then it all became about John. Right? He's now dog whistling to people on the right, to people on this, and some of the most extreme lot. So the NSN on one side, and then you've got the Hamas pro-Palestinian mob on the other. It's kind of insane. And I think this is all a stunt. If it was a legitimate attempt to remove multicultural out of our society, I would be 100% on board. But I don't trust it. And there's good reason I don't trust John. I've had interactions with him on X, and he says he's a free speech advocate. Well, if you're a free speech advocate, why do you block people who simply disagree with you, which he did with me? So I think he's a bit of a, not I think, I know personally he's a bit of a fraud. So I think this is all nonsense, and sadly it will suck in more people to his nonsense, and that'll just amplify all the stuff that we don't need in our country that will keep us divided. Alex Antic. Now, I'm not accusing Alex Antic of anything. I think Alex Antic, from what I've seen and what I can judge, I think he's a really good senator. I would like to get behind Alex Antic a lot more. I do have concerns, though. I have reasons to pause. So for people who don't understand what reason to pause is, a reason to pause about a person is where, yeah, I really like this guy, but there's just a couple of things in there I don't want to jump on board with him yet. So that's where I am with Alex Antic. And especially since there's noises of him jumping on with One Nation and Pauline Hanson. And I hope they're aware of a lot of this, One Nation. So we had his Carl Stefanik interview a week or two ago. And in that interview, he was alongside Jared Rennick. Jared Rennick, who I have defended, who I've invited onto my podcast a couple of times, especially when in the March for Australia in Brisbane, he was cancelled. They wouldn't let him speak after he was a speaker simply because he backed some form of immigration. So I said, well, it doesn't matter what opinion you should have, you should be able to express it. And I still would back that. If Jared contacted me today, said, Bob, I hate some of your opinions, but I want to come on your program and talk about it, I'd welcome him. Same thing with Alex Antic, same thing. John Ruddick, I would love an interview with John Ruddick. Oh, my God. If anyone has connections to John Ruddick, tell him to come on. What's he got to be scared of? I'd love John Ruddick to come on. I don't think he ever will. What does that say? I'm a nobody. But John Ruddick knows who I am. And I know, I'm pretty confident that John Ruddick doesn't think he'd hold his own. And I'm no intellectual, but when you're a hypocrite and when you take stances that are conflicting of each other, it's hard to win any sort of argument. Anyway, so I still have some faith in Alex Antic, but he was on this interview with Jared Rennick, but then not long after that, and I've given Jared about 3-4 occasions. I think I always thought Jared Rennick, I've started to change my mind on this, but I always thought Jared Rennick was one of the smartest guys in our parliament, really high IQ, could come up with policy platform. He may still be that, all right? But the problem I have with Jared is how hard he's come at Pauline Hanson and One Nation. Now, he's come really hard. And Jared, when he goes off, Jared goes off. I've been on the receiving end of 2 bursts from Jared. In one, he wanted to deport me simply because I had a differing opinion with Trump. If you remember when he sent those B-52s to bomb Iraq's nuclear sites, I have a different opinion. It's like right now, I support Trump. I support Bibi Netanyahu. I support Israel and America. Go wipe that Iranian bunch of pricks off the face of the earth. There are some wars that are good. And I think they are fighting a war of civilization. And if they can make that Iranian regime collapse, hallelujah, more power to them. And if you can't find that within your soul, get on X, get on whatever you're on, and just try and find how many young people, we're talking between 14 and 20, that the Iranian government have hanged this week simply for protesting against them. Now, you've got to remember in Iran, when you get hung, that's the end of your torture, especially if you're a female. There was a young girl who's just been executed. There's another one apparently going to get executed sometime today or tomorrow. They're going to get hung. So in Iran, if you're a female, they're going to rape you before you get killed because they don't want you going on to heaven. Apparently in the Iranian culture, the Islamic culture, if you get raped before you get executed, that's a guarantee that you won't pass on to heaven. So they'll get their inmates, they'll bash them, they'll probably do all sorts of torture towards them. They'll rape them, and then they'll execute them. So the execution is just the end part. And they don't care. There was a 14-year-old boy who used to sell stuff on the street, and because he joined in the protest against the government, he's been hung. Think about that. That means in Australia, all these pro-Palestinian protesters, and some of you might support this. I certainly won't. I can't stand the pro-Palestinian protesters. Do I want them charged, arrested? No. Do I want them hung? Definitely not. I just think they're dickheads. That's it. Don't need anything more than that. You're just a bunch of dickheads. Here's the reason why. That's it. Hey, dickhead, if you want to come onto my podcast, you're more than welcome. Let's have it out. That's the difference between Western society and the radical Islamic society. But you got all these fucking dickheads like Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, and all that. Carlson did it again today. He's shilling for Islamic countries. He's shilling for Sharia law. He's trying to say how the West is so decrepit. Now, we have got issues in the West. Why have we got issues in the West? Because we've allowed the third world, the worst of the third world, to come into our country, especially the third world radical Islamic countries. People who just simply do not are not compatible with what our beliefs, our values are. Now, I'm against multiculturalism. I'm not against immigration, for example. So John didn't replace multicultural. He had some sort of values, sort of bullshit. But John plays both sides of the sword. He dog whistles to the NSN, and the NSN, and credit to the NSN, they clearly come out and state they want mass deportations. Unless you're a white Australian that's got links back in your heritage to white Anglo thing, you got to be deported. We're going back to white Australia. No blacks, no Asians. No, they say it. They're quite happy to say it. John doesn't, but he dog whistled to them. He's dog whistling with this multiculturalism thing. We don't need diversity, but if you want to come to this country, you want to immigrate to this country, you want to adopt that flag, you want to adopt our values and culture, you still want to retain part of your history, that's fine. But don't tell us what religion we should have. Abide by our Christian culture. Adopt the AFL footy team. Get your kids playing cricket. Soccer. We got more sports in Australia than any other planet probably on the globe. Try Aussie food, and we'll try yours. I don't really care. Food's not a big deal as long as it doesn't give me food poisoning. But come into Australia, pay your taxes, love the country, be prepared to fight and defend the country, and accept our Western values and the heritage that this country was built on. Don't come in here telling us we're racist, bigots, and colonisers. We are the nation builders that built this bloody country. We've got nothing to be ashamed of. Our forefathers have got nothing to be ashamed of. Just because you might have had other colleagues or people, or even in yourself, you've done something wrong. If you've done more good than bad, then you're a good person. If you regret those bad things, you're still a good person. You're even a better person if you ask for forgiveness of it. We shouldn't be tearing down bloody statues from people who worked their entire life to make this country what it was. And yet we've got little arseholes running around doing exactly that. If you can respect our streets, our businesses, not commit crime, not assault people, certainly not rape people, certainly definitely not be a pedophile, then you're welcome here. That's if you want to raise a family, have a future for your kids, you're welcome here. But you're Australian. You're not Chinese Australian. You're not Indian Australian. You're not African Australian. You're just Australian. So that gets me on the opposite side from the NSN and Groper types. That's fine. I don't really care about that. But, the one thing where I will agree with the NSN and Groper types is I'm anti-multiculturalism. But then on the next week, you'll have John Ruddick going and marching with the Hamas pro-Palestinian mob across Sydney Harbour Bridge. He's a classic dog whistler. He dog whistles to both sides. And for me, it's really disappointing. I thought John was and I still think he was. I think something's changed him, which is understandable once you get into the political thing. And then it all becomes about power and keeping your position in the parliament and your wages and all this. I mean, it's not like I'm a businessman. I've got to bust my ass to generate a wage for myself and pay the rent and do all that. All of a sudden, when you're in parliament, you're just getting your wage put in your account, got a great super, all the perks. Life's pretty easy, really, what financially was. And you've just got to come up with reasons for people to keep voting you into parliament. And you can keep that gravy train going for 20, 30, 40 years. So it's got to be tempting. So I don't agree with it, but I understand why people do it. Jared Rennick, on the other hand, he really attacked Pauline, and I think there's only one reason he's attacking Pauline. He's called a Zionist and all this simply because she supports Israel, which is kind of a lazy argument. Just because There's two sides of the coin with Israel and Gaza. I can sort of understand both, right? So if you're an Australian who supports Gaza because kids are being killed, I can understand that. I'm not going to call you a Hamas supporter, all right? If you are a Hamas supporter, that's different. If you're a person who understands why Israel's taken their action after being attacked on October 7th and you support Israel, that doesn't make you a Zionist. If our country got attacked and a similar percentage of people got murdered, raped, and kidnapped, I would want my government to let all hell loose and go get those hostages back, go take vengeance on the country that attacked us. Boom. Exactly what Israel did. I've got no problem with what Israel did or has done. They are protecting their citizens, their country, their borders. What's wrong with that? And they're fighting 7 nations doing it. And everyone's saying, oh, they've picked these wars and these nations. Study your history. In 1947, 48, as soon as they were announced as a nation, every Arab nation came in, took up arms against them, and took them on in a war to obliterate it. They wanted to push them back into the sea. Hence the saying, from the river to the sea. So anyone who countenances that, well, you're not looking into it. All you're doing is seeing photos, the propaganda, and it's abysmal. It's abysmal seeing kids and innocents getting killed. But don't just put the IDS blame on that. Don't forget it's Hamas who put those kids and women and innocents in the path of the IDF so they can be protected down their tunnels. But just because you can see that point doesn't mean you're a Zionist. And there's different versions of Zionist anyway. I mean, it's just, the whole thing's just a boring, stupid argument. But Jared Rennick's right into it. And if you dare take on an opposing view against Jared Rennick, a proponent of free speech and all this bullshit, well, he'll have a real crack. Try it. I've tried it twice. I've been on the receiving end. And I've got to say, Jared Rennick, and this is where he's lost me, he comes out and he has a good dig at everybody on social media. If you get in an exchange with him, he'll come at you. Fortunately for me, I don't care, and I'll go right back, which I've done. But then when you do go at him, he becomes the biggest wimp you've ever seen. He whinges about people, personal abuse, all this. Follow his feeds. He's one of the biggest abusers on X. I mean, I don't really care. Do you abuse? I'll throw a bit back. But then don't bitch about it when you cop it. I mean, grow a spine, Jared. But, and that's what makes me concerned about Alex, because he embraced him, one of the greatest people on there. Is Alex aware of some of these attitudes of Jared? And if he is, can then I go, I want to support Alex? I really do, actually. I agree with just about everything that Alex says. But he's going to embrace that behaviour from Jared Rennick or something like that from John Ruddick, which he hasn't. But he did a social media skit with Senator Babette. I used to like Senator Babette a bit, but the longer they're in Parliament, the more you get to see the real senator. And because you follow him on social media, Senator Babette gets paid $300,000 plus in wages and perks. That's your money. That's my money. He spends so much time on social media just reposting and commenting on the wildest woke right insanity you've ever seen. Whether it's Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, his new favourite, the Kerry blonde bimbo who, just became a Catholic 5 minutes ago and is lecturing every other Catholic on the planet who've been Catholics for a lifetime. The same Catholic who only picks out the pro-Palestinian issues but never comments on, for example, she's never put up one post about these young kids being executed in Iran or the Nigerian Christians being slaughtered by the Islamic nuts. She never speaks about that. It's always about Israel and what's going on in Gaza. Well, what about what's going on in Iran? What's about what's going on in Sudan? What about what's going on in Nigeria? I mean, this is where the hypocrisy just comes shining through. So Senator Babette's right in there with that. He will get on their threads. He will talk about it. He will raise up stupid things on social media supporting the same tiresome bullshit propaganda. He'll repost their messages, do all this. This is a senator that gets $300,000 a year plus. He should be in on his office. He should be thinking up ways he can improve country, what legislation he can propose or work with other senators and lower house MPs on how he can fix and address some of the problems. For all, don't forget, he got on there because of our stupid preferential system on a minor lot of votes that Clive Palmer bought. It wasn't because of the great way that Senator Babette campaigned. It was because Clive Palmer financed him. And again, they're back. Clive and Senator Babette, they just attacked Pauline Hanson and One Nation. Now, you can have your differences with Pauline and One Nation, but Pauline's been a rock. She's been there 30 years, and because she's stuck at it, they're rising now. She's stuck at it until people have had enough of the major parties, and now she's coming through. And I think the issue that we've got in our current politics on the centre-right is people like Jared Rennick, Senator Babette, John Ruddock even, they resent the rise of One Nation because they hope it was them. They hope it was their little parties that were going to get this rise in the percentage where it's actually all going to One Nation. And instead of applauding it, supporting it, they want to attack it. Matt Canavan made that mistake. Seems like he's woken up to himself. Let's hope that's the case. But I would hope, and this is where we need that leader. Now, whether Pauline can do this, but she's expressed things that she wants to work with people. She's said it over and over again. No one's promoting that message that she comes out with. But we certainly need someone, a leader nationally, federally, who can come out and unite them. Pauline should be given every chance before the next federal election to be that leader. If she can't achieve it, then hopefully, Pauline's like me, she's getting on a bit, she can recruit the person who can. I'm not too sure. Barnaby Joyce has surprised me. I didn't think he was a good choice, but I think he's done really well. Whether he's that person that can rally, I'm not too sure. You need a person with the values, with the strength of character that Pauline's got, but they need to be I hate to say this, but they need to be an orator. And I think Pauline's even identified this with herself. She's not the world's greatest orator. If you could get, and I hate his guts, but if you could get a Barack Obama type who can really speak strongly and with some passion and has the correct values, that could be the person that brings this all together. Are they out there? I can't. Actually, there's one. And I'm happy for people to pass on their opinions. But every time I've listened to him, hope I get his name right, he has really impressed me. That's Senator James Patterson from the Liberals. Really impressive. He looks like a dork. He looks like a nerd. He looks like something that's out of the Big Bang Theory. But when he speaks so well. And in the Senate committee hearings, he has been super impressive if you ever listen to him. His questioning gets Penny Wong in a spin. She can't handle him. He has been excellent. He is one young guy. He reminds me a little bit of John Howard, a younger John Howard. Now, I'm not saying his values are the same. I'm not saying that. I'm talking about how he's a nerdy guy. He looks a nerdy guy that everyone said couldn't lead, but by God, and this is where he and Howard do share it, they both can make fine oratory speeches that go across the board, and they both were super smart. You don't have to like what John Howard did as a prime minister. And there's some things I don't agree with. I think overall he's a very good prime minister, as was Bob Hawke. And even Paul Keating was better than anyone we've got now. But I think James Peterson, I can't remember. He shares those two similarities of John Howard. He looks a bit dorky, looks a bit nerdy, but by God, he can speak well and he's super smart. That's the sort of person they need in One Nation. Now, whether he's the power behind the scenes or whether he's that leader, I don't really care. But that's what they need. And not only that, they need someone with that high profile, similar values in every state. I think Cory Bernardi, again, I wasn't too sure about it, but I think he's proven to be an excellent person in charge in South Australia. Who the hell they're going to get for Victoria, I don't know. I'm trying to speak to a few Victorians to get them on the issues. But anyway, sorry, I've been babbling on. It's been a longer rant than usual. I think that'll do me. I think you got my feelings. I have, if you do have connections with Alex Antic, and he, as they all do, they find their favourite people to follow. I've got some people in politics that converse with me. If you do have an avenue to talk to Alex Antic, I sent out today because I'd like to find out in a sensible conversation where does he stand on some of these things that Jared Rennick and Senator Babette stand. Does he agree with them? I'd like to have that clear because I'd like to back him. So I'm not going to back him until I get some clarity on those issues and where he stands and he puts it on the record. So I'd like to ask those questions. I don't think anyone else in the media is aware of this because none of them get on X because they're all too stupid. Laura Jay's this morning, oh my God. She didn't even know that One Nation actually is a proprietary limited company until, I can't remember his name, the big bald guy with the glasses. He corrected her. She's so dumb. Anyway, if you got a connection with Alex Antic, I sent him an invitation to come on my podcast, my BNBA. What am I saying? It's my work, my Eureka Conservative podcast. And I'm going to contact his office tomorrow to officially invite him on. We get him onto the podcast. We have a good chat about policy, but we find out where he stands. I think that's something we've got to continuously be doing as people like me who comment on politics and want to be doing it. And away we go. Speaking of which, to finish off with, tonight, 8 o'clock, the Eureka Conservative podcast. It'll be just me. I'm trying to get a couple of guests on at the moment. I'm trying to organise one very special three-way between a boomer, a Zoomer groper, and an immigrant. So, and a very interesting immigrant. I think it would be a fascinating conversation. So that could be really good. But that's not tonight. Tonight it's just me, and we're going to be concentrating on some issues, bringing some things. Hopefully we get it. Someone like we had Guido yesterday. Hopefully he comes on. Here you go, my dog. He's already sensed I'm about to sign off. Come here, baby. So from me, my boy JJ, God bless your kids. God bless your grandkids. God bless your pets. God bless that flag. And I'll see you all tomorrow. Bye for now.